Good day and welcome again to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about conscious sexuality. And for those that are a bit squeamish about this topic, that is of sexuality, don't worry, it shouldn't be too wild a conversation, but that's all subjective and relative anyways, right? So what is conscious sexuality, and why did I choose to call this topic conscious sexuality rather than just sexuality? Well, like anything, there is an awakened human being perspective, and there is an unconscious human being perspective to things. And what do I mean by awakened human being and conscious human being? Well, you'll have to watch one of my upcoming videos about awakening to, if you don't already know what that means, you'll get a better idea of what I'm defining as awakened human being and unconscious human being. Now, by being a more conscious, awake individual, and it's always a process, so we're not a finished product, right? We're in the process of awakening and deepening our awakening constantly. So once you awaken, it's just the start. It's not a be-all, end-all at all. So you're becoming more and more conscious of things. And the same goes for sexuality. So you are more conscious of your feelings, your desires, your needs, etc. And you also look into things a lot deeper than you used to. You don't just look to the surface and then say, oh, that's what it is, and you sum it up as that. You actually look deeply into things. You go down all the rabbit holes and whatnot. So when it comes to sexuality, you actually become a lot more conscious of all the drives and the energies at play and what it actually is. What you get a better idea of what we're talking about, of what you're working with. That doesn't mean you know everything about it and you're the go-to expert. I'm not saying that at all, but I'm saying you realize in humility that you don't know a lot about certain things, or anything for that matter, including sexuality. So then you look at it sort of like from scratch, from an innocent point of view. You really rediscover your innocence again, like you lost in your childhood. And you're looking at it in a lot more innocent way, and also honest way. So you're very honest with yourself about what you want and what you're feeling and all that kind of stuff. As opposed to, say, with a more unconscious person, they're just giving into whatever drives come up, and they don't contemplate why they're having them, or looking at patterns in their lives, or they don't they're not that much in control, in other words, of their emotions and what they feel and everything. They're just going with what they feel. And I'm not saying that's good or bad, or rather that going with what you feel isn't the right thing to do. But there's a difference between being conscious while you're doing it and unconscious. Like things are just sort of happening to you rather than through you, is what I'm saying. So with sexuality, you're dealing with one of the most powerful energies or forces in the universe. I mean, it's literally your life force. So what I hope to accomplish in this video is also allow you to look at sex from a whole different perspective, from a different point of view. So you're dealing with that very powerful force in the universe to procreate. But obviously, for human beings, sex is more than just for procreation. Now, there are people that believe it should only be that, and I don't mean any disrespect for them, but there are many, many people that disagree that it's should be more than that. It is more than that, and in their most honest opinion, that's how they see it. So, at any rate, when you're dealing with such a powerful force, you would do well to learn what it really is. So you do your homework or research, looking into it, meditating on it, whatever. Talking to other people that are perhaps wise or have looked into it, and talk about it, and then you conduct your life accordingly to what you discover once you've looked more deeply into it. But again, it still comes down to your personal choices and opinions. So one way of doing it is no better than the others. And I feel like sexuality is meant to be, not taken so seriously and treated like taboos and dark, like a lot of people have in Western society. I know that there are certain cultures on the planet that don't treat it that way, and I agree with them in certain ways. So I feel like it's something that is meant to be taken in a lot more lighthearted way, but also in a responsible way. Like I'm all for people just embracing their feelings and their needs and everything and going with it, but in a responsible, mature way. And this is my vision for, let's say, the future, or for the new earth, or a new way of being with the collective, is that we're all just totally honest about ourselves when it comes to everything, including sexuality. We're not ashamed of anything anymore. We're not trying to hide it, because a lot of that shame and hiding comes from ulterior motives in the past. Like, it's not because sex is essentially bad or sinful. It's because there have been people in power that have decided that, they know how powerful sexuality is, and that they can control and manipulate and do social experimentation and whatever by condoning certain things and by banning certain things, making certain things taboo. And let me put it this way. When something obviously feels off or wrong about something, then it probably is, But you also need to do some honest inner reflection and looking at things to see, like, if there's not really anybody being harmed here. Like, in some cases there are. So in those cases, for example, nobody likes to be forced to do something against their will. So that's obviously wrong, or should be avoided, right? But when it comes to consenting adults that are mature and they have a pretty good idea of what they're doing and what they're getting into, then whatever they do in their bedrooms or with their partners in intimate relationships is their business. And that's, for me, the truth of it, that as long as they're not harming themselves or others, then it really doesn't matter what they do when it comes to everything, including sex. But what I feel is a lot worse, or let's say wrong in a sense, is when people try to tell other people what they should be doing in their intimate relationships. So I am for freedom in sexuality, but as with the asterisk beside it, as I said, as long as it's not harming anyone or forcing anything on anyone else. So sexuality is very powerful and meant to be beautiful and enjoyed, but I just want to finish by saying that we're all on a adventure, right? We're all sojourning in a spiritual process, whether we're conscious of it or not. And so sexuality is one of those things that our view of it is going to change as we change and evolve and become more conscious in our lives of who we are and what we're doing. And when we fully love ourselves, and yes, a lot of people think, oh, no, I don't think that's right to talk that way about loving ourselves because it's to do with ego and selfishness and whatnot. That's not what I'm talking about at all. It is a truism in my heart and in intuition to say that you must fully love yourself before you can ever fully love another individual. And for me, sex is meant to be enjoyed and honored, and for those that genuinely want to engage in it. Like, there are some people that don't, and that's totally fine too. But for most of us that do, it's meant to be fully embraced, but coming from love, always done in a loving way. And when you do it that way, you'll never go wrong. So I feel like people, when it goes the other way, when it's always or often done without love, or what some might call lust, then that's when it becomes a problem and not good for anybody. So I feel like it's conscious sexuality is about having a sexual relationship or relationships, whatever your choices are, in a very responsible and loving manner. And even sex that's done what some might call lust, or in a more casual way, as long as a person is loving themselves, they know who they are, and they're truly loving themselves, and they know why they're doing what they're doing, then I feel like there isn't a problem there. But there are lessons to be learned in any situation. So I hope that helps and maybe relieve some of the judgment a lot of us feel when it comes to sexuality. You know, please don't harshly judge yourself or others. Just be honest with yourself and be open with your partner, and just know thyself. It all starts from there. So when you know yourself fully, then everything you do springs from that. And um, you can be in a conscious relationship. And yes, this is related to one of my last videos about transparency in relationships, but in a much broader topic, with conscious sexuality. So um, I hope that helps. And I love you all. And I thank you for listening. And till next time, namaste.